Hi, this is Nicole Roberts-Jones, and welcome to Amplify Your Brilliance. What I know for sure is that one of life's greatest gifts will meet you when you go after your more. And so here is where I share with you thought-provoking insight and behind-the-curtain conversations with women who have reached the pinnacle of success because they went after their more. And I really want you to get this. One idea from these episodes can make a remarkable difference, not just in your business, your career, but in your life. Also, make sure you join the conversation in our Facebook group. Go to thebrilliancetribe.com. Now grab your pen as we begin today's session of Amplify Your Brilliance. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Amplify Your Brilliance. And I got to tell you, listen, this woman right here and I just had this yummy conversation. I was like, girl, stop. We got to start this episode. So let me introduce you to Nicky Sparrow. So Nicky is a powerful example of living the American dream. She's a gifted manager whose business instincts and clear vision in the field of broadcast marketing have been recognized. Now, Nicky began her career in the field of broadcast marketing in a small property in Tupelo. I should ask you how to say that. Mississippi. Tupelo. Hello, and I've heard of that. Tupelo, Mississippi in 1999. Her early baby steps into the marketing business were followed by a 100-yard dash into iHeartMedia, which was formerly called Clear Channel, right? So Correct. She went into the iHeartMedia management and sales to reach her current position as Market President of Jacksonville, Florida. Now, listen, this woman has been all up and through, as my stepkids would say, right? Through iHeartMedia in her time there, right? She served as Senior Vice President of Sales in New Orleans, Director of Sales in Memphis and Tallahassee, and now General Sales Manager in Jacksonville, Florida, right? So Nicky is distinguished by her passion for business, her focus on collaborative team building, and her commitment to meeting customers and markets' demands. So I can go on and on, but her contagious enthusiasm instills her and her team members with extraordinary energy and dedication in an environment where creativity and innovation are encouraged. Welcome, Miss Nicky. I'm so excited you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking me to be a part of this. So I'm glad to actually share with you today. So
right.
Thank you.
So, you know, I was telling Nicky, and I got to start with this. So Nicky and I were speaking at an event in February, right a month before COVID hit. No, it was end of January, actually. And I love that. Let me say this, and please correct me as you tell the story. So she is one of few women of color that have a seat at the table. And Correct. She got invited by the executive team in New York, the executive office of iHeart, to come to a meeting. And she had to make a decision. Do I quit and tell the people I can't speak at this event, or do I go to New York? And girl, you made it happen because you did both.
Right. Look, that all you have is your word, right? And I tell people I don't practice lying, so I'm not good at it. So if I give you my word, I've already checked my schedule and everything else. So I definitely told my CEO I would love to be a part of this, but I already made a commitment. How can we make this work? And so they actually gave me one of the executive suites. So I was able to do both. So it was definitely a pleasure because the whole point of speaking at the conference, they wanted me to talk about having a seat at the table.
Right.
So God said, you want to talk about it? Let me give it to you. Now,
Let me show them.
Right.
Right. And I love it because not only were you transparent, but you made it happen, right? So the yummy conversation we were having before this, as a woman of color, having a seat at a table, first of all, an industry that very few people of color have a seat at the table, let alone women, right?
Yeah, correct.
So let's start out of the gate. Tell us about your climb to even doing that.
So I will tell you, I actually got into the radio business by accident, but in the boldness of it. So like I actually was working for a department store. I was a manager at a department store, and the radio station was having a job fair. And at the time, I didn't know it was a job fair, but I am a woman of boldness. So it was another department store that was actually coming to town, and I wanted to apply for a manager job there. But their booth was right next to my current employer booth, so I couldn't just stroll down there, right? So I went into where the hosts were set up, and I asked them, I said, hey, excuse me, do you mind taking my resume down there? I'm gonna stand right here and wave, but I actually work for the company that's right next to them, so I can't go up there. So I have one of them to come down here and talk to me. And so it was just like, what? And I said, just go ahead, it'll be fine. So first of all, the manager of the radio station, again, it wasn't set up looking like it was a radio station, but the manager of the radio station heard me. And I think it was just the fact that I've been asked, because my whole deal, I was raised by my grandmother, and she said, if you don't ask, you're guaranteed a no. if you ask, your odds are better, right? So I always like, all you're gonna do is get a yes or no. So
Right.
so needless to say, they took my resume down there and then came back, and the manager started talking to me, and they was like, "What do you do?" and everything else. I'm giving my whole backstory. Well, the next day, the manager showed up at my job, so I'm looking like stalkerish. What do you want?
Right. It's like, don't get me in trouble.
Right,
That's the whole reason why I didn't come to your table.
right.
Number
No, the
one.
manager of the radio station. And so
Oh,
he was just like, oh, I really want you to apply for a job. And I said, to do job fairs? And he said, no, it's actually the radio station. And I was like, no, thank you. And he was just like, well, you hadn't even heard an offer. Well, long story short, he did this for like 2 weeks. And so the last
wow.
time he said, well, can you come in for an interview? When your next day off? So I told him, he said, just come in for an interview. You have nothing to lose. Matter of fact, I'll give you a gift card and the whole nine. So I'm like, okay, because I was a single mom at the time with 3 kids. So I'm like, okay, I'll take your little gift card.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in, interviewed.
Right.
He had the GM to come in and interview me as well, because I guess he said, look, she's hot potato. She's going to, we got one shot. And I will tell you, Nicole, I got offered more money than I had ever made before. It was a 6 months guarantee. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to ride this for the 6 months. I'm going to catch up on my bills. And if it don't work, at least I know about, like, retail, and I'll get back in there. And that was 20 something years ago.
But the thing I love the most about that story, and ladies, if you didn't get this note, I'm going to make sure you get it. You had to risk it all to gain
Correct.
it all. Because there was only a 6-month guarantee. What if you hated? What if you were horrible at it because you had never even worked in this field, right? And
Oh,
yet you took a big jump.
oh no, I bet on me.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
I always bet on me. Like, and
Mm,
that's not being arrogant or anything else.
no,
I
no.
literally, I will bet on me.
Yes.
And so, and that's one thing about it, is like, you have people that take you, like, just like I consider myself a calculated risk taker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will take a risk, but I will think about it. I'm not careless, but I
Right.
will think about, like, okay, if this happens, this happens, this happens, and I'm for it. And even with our
Mm-hmm.
company, being a single mom with 3 kids, I
Right.
moved around. In order to be promoted the way that I did, I had to be flexible. And
Mm-hmm.
I just told them, as long as it was a summertime, because I didn't want to disrupt my children's school year.
Mm. I love how every time you get an offer, you're bold enough to say, I can do it, however, right?
Correct.
And so
Correct.
many of us aren't even willing to say, yes, let me bring something to the table too.
Okay, no, no, absolutely. I will definitely tell you. I told them, even when they first start moving me around, I
Hmm.
said, I will go wherever you want me to go, as long as I wind up back in Jacksonville, Florida.
I know that's right.
And so I had my end in mind. I
Mm.
meant, they literally sent me everywhere. I became like the Nanny McPhee of radio. If they needed a market to be fixed, they would call Nikki, and I would fix it and everything else, with my end destination of, as long as I get back in Jacksonville.
But the other thing you did was you created a brand for yourself because you just said it, if anywhere you need a market to be fixed. And
Correct.
now they know who to come to. They know who to come to when they have a market that's performing poorly to really raise the roof for that market. I love it.
Right. And one of the things that I tell my mentees all the time, first of all, is very important for anybody. Have your end in mind. And that doesn't mean that it has to be concrete. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even then, with telling people, I will go wherever you want me to go, as long as I wind up back in Jacksonville, right? So here's
Mm-hmm.
a couple of things. By saying that, I'm letting them know I'm available, I'm mobile, and everything else. But if the Jacksonville market president position come open, because I said it so
Mm-hmm.
many times, it's already embedded in their mind. That was my
Yes.
job. Nobody
Mm.
interviewed for it or anything else. As soon as Jacksonville came open this last time, I was the person.
That's so
So
good.
you gotta
That's
you
so
gotta
good.
put in the atmosphere, because so many times people feel like somebody's gonna see their work, and then they get frustrated because they don't get acknowledged and everything else. But you gotta make your work, look, make people hear what it is that you want. You have to put it out in
Mm-hmm.
the atmosphere, and not just think that people are just going to see you. And it's not that they don't appreciate you, but when you start talking about, like, the CEO level, or even me as a manager, I have 40 something employees. I can't tell you what
Mm.
all of them do. But what I
Right.
tell everybody is, make sure when you see somebody that is tied to your career and that could help you in your career, make sure you're giving them your elevator speech about what you have done for the company. Because they will
Mm-hmm.
remember you. Because I will be like, okay, I created the Louisiana deal, or I closed the Pelican deal, or I did this. Even when they didn't know my name, they remembered the
Right.
revenue that I brought in, or the deal.
Mm. That's so
But
good. So listen, y'all, it's not even been 10 minutes yet, and she's been dropping nuggets. So let me just back up and give you two big ones that I took because I'm taking notes too. So the first thing she's talked about is taking calculated risk. And I'm bringing this up because here's why I hear so many people say it. I know you do too, Nikki, that they say, oh, I'm going to step out on faith. But what's interesting is God doesn't tell you to have stupid faith. Yeah, I'm going all the way there. I'm stepping on somebody's toes too, right? So there's a whole book in the Bible called Proverbs, which is a book of wisdom.
correct.
So God is telling you to be wise when you take a risk. And so I love how you talked about, I planned it all out. I looked at every option. I figured out what I wanted at the end of the risk I was taking.
Correct.
So good.
Correct.
So good. And then the other thing you said, again, this is my nuggets. Hopefully this is nuggets for you too, ladies, is you have not because you ask not.
Correct.
Right? So if you want something, you've got to put it out in the atmosphere. So it was like you were dropping seeds and watering them
Correct.
all along the way. And because you watered them, you back in Florida.
Correct. And the thing is, like, what people don't really realize is, like, when you're talking about big companies, corporations, and everything else, and like when you start looking at the executive table, it's small. And so how do you expect somebody to remember you if you have, like, a lot of times people, and I have to tell people, and I said, look, I'm pro education. I don't pay for 3 of them. Right.
Okay.
So but I will tell you, if somebody's talking to me about my business, telling me how many degrees and everything that you have do not mean anything to me. That doesn't translate to money.
Right.
If you're telling me I closed XYZ or I just met with such and such, we have a $5 million deal on the time, that's going to get a CEO executive attention, right? But when so many times it's like have your elevator speech and make sure when you have your elevator speech about, and it should be tied to the company's success or the company's revenue, but make sure that it evolves, because you can't keep riding off of what you did 2 years ago and 3 years ago. Like Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately, right?
Right.
To make sure and that it's evolving. And so, and that's how because people's like, well, how did you do this? How did you do this? And I said, look, I became my best PR person.
Yeah.
And
it's not bragging, but it's not bragging. It's really not, you know.
You're telling the truth.
Right. And it's not bragging. You're telling people who you are. It's almost like instead of walking and say, hi, my name is Nicky Sparrow. It's like, so here, let me show you what I bring to the table. Right. So and I love that you said it's not about a degree, because it's not. So I don't care if you have a PhD. I don't care if you have 3 PhDs. If you can't do anything with it, what's the point?
Correct. Absolutely. Because I would tell you, look, I was motivated by having 3 daughters that are back to back to back. They're exactly all 3 of their birthdays in July. And I promised these girls if they qualify to get into college, I will pay for it. I didn't have no college fund or anything else. So mama had to figure it out, which means I had to work. And I had to strategize on how I'm going to do that. So I made sure my plan was to make sure that I was accessible and that I was on the top of my game. And I did not allow anybody else to put any excuses on me. And so never been late for work. Back in the days, like when the girls was little, I fought through everything because I knew I needed to save my sick days and everything else. But whenever they needed a volunteer, I was quick to raise my hand, and I did a lot of things for free before I started getting paid.
But how did Nikki become this person? Because you were this person before you got this job at iHeart, right? You were this person way before this. Like, what instilled all of this in you?
So, my dad actually said that to me because we were just talking about success and I was raised by my grandmother, and I would tell you that lady had wisdom like nobody else's. And I would tell you, and again, not knocking education because I don't pay for 3 of them. My grandmother didn't even have a high school degree, but she was one of the most intelligent people that I knew. And it was certain stuff that she would say, and I meant like, broken English, but it was like, you're not better than anybody else, but nobody's better than you. When you're talking to people, it was just certain stuff that she just instilled in me. And it was like, it just gave me a confidence. And again, just like the whole thing is so many people are afraid to ask people for something.
I was going to say, every time something came up, you pushed your way through it. So you were never afraid to ask because that was instilled in you from the beginning.
Correct. And my grandmother told me, because I asked a lot of questions, people would say I was nosy. And my grandmother said, no, my baby's not nosy. She's inquisitive, and it's going to take her a long way.
Hello. I love that. I love that. So tell us, in your career, in your growth and in your rise and you're moving city to city, state to state, was there ever a defining moment for you? Now, let me say this before we got before I hit record, right?
Yeah.
Even if you want to talk about all the times that you tried to quit,
Right.
Right.
Right, because I tried to resign 3 times. Thank you, God. And thank
Right.
you, Bruce Demps, who's been an amazing mentor for me. Because one time
Mm.
I tried to quit with him twice and he told me, go take a nap. Nikki, go get you some coffee, go take a nap. We're going to work it out, right? Because I was a little hot headed when I
Right.
first started out, especially like in my early 20s. Like I had
Yeah.
to mature, and I've always been confident. But with
Right.
that confidence, sometimes you can be a little hot headed. And when
Right.
you start getting into management and everything else, you definitely have to control your emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
management is all about controlling them emotions. So
Right.
it was definitely, I've definitely have grown beyond that. But like being growing up in this company, and like I said, being one of very few African Americans, and
Mm.
then one of very few females, and then in a industry that's dominated by white men.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's a lot of things that I actually face. But the story that I was sharing with you is like when I actually moved to Memphis, it was a manager that was already there when I got there. And let me back up and knock on wood. Thank you, God. I have to say that in my 20 something years of career, I've never applied for a position because I did
Mm.
the pre sale.
That's good.
So
Hello.
I've never applied for a position. I've always been called and somebody saying, Nikki, I want you here, want you here, and everything else. And so, and even with that, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, calculated risk. I only moved when the executive team called. If it was like a market president, which my position now, I would not take it because in the executive team, you're
Mm.
talking about a whole nother income level. And I knew that
Mm.
I was going to get their support as well because I was their person.
Right.
And then not only that, but they was
Right.
negotiating my contract. And negotiating my contract, knowing
Right.
what they make is way better than a market president negotiating my contract, right? So it was a lot of thought
Mm-hmm.
process that went in there. So it was definitely some things that I thought about as I was making moves. But going back to the
Mm-hmm.
story when I moved to Memphis, and Memphis was so good to me. That is actually one of my like career wise, I absolutely learned so much from Memphis. But when I moved there, I was actually brought in by a regional president. And the market president there, not too long after I got there, he got released, and then they brought in somebody else. And you, as you know, in corporate America, you can build your own team, no fault of anybody else's. Like
Mm-hmm.
people can come in and they want to be
Right.
surrounded around people that they trust, just like when people in politics, people bring in their own
Right.
cabinets and all that stuff. Same thing with corporate America. And so the
Right.
new market president got there. You can quickly tell, like, and I could see it. He looked at me like, okay, that's not my person. I didn't do anything wrong. It's just that I didn't look like what he was used to in his
Right.
management staff, and especially his right hand person. But lo and behold, he started going around the city, and he couldn't get away from me. And everybody was wanting to know, where was Nikki? Where was Nikki? Nikki's still there. Nikki's still there. And he was shocked because here it is. I hadn't even been in the city a good year. And because, look, I have learned the artwork of making sure that I quickly
Mm.
get connected with the right people, with the right organization. And then I always go meet with our
Yes.
top accounts and everything else. So everybody knew who I was. And so he told me, he said, how in the
Mm-hmm.
world? He was like, this is because he was originally
Mm.
from there. He said, more people know you in this city than they know me. And he's like, how did you do it? And I was just like, you can't outwork me.
We're going to stop here and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back for more. Ladies, have you got your ticket to join me for the 2020 Be the Answer 2-day intensive? Well, this year we're going virtual. That's right. You can join me from the comfort of your home. Learn more and register at betheanswerevent.com. So this event is filled with other women just like you on a mission for more. See, whether that more is to get clear on how your intellectual property can and should produce your paycheck, or to start your business alongside your 9-to-5, or maybe to generate multiple streams of income in your current business, or anything in between, you need to join us. See, Be the Answer is an event where I give you the tools you need to create and sustain a business that you're passionate about, all while showing you how to generate multiple streams of income. Log on to betheanswerevent.com and register. Listen, it's me and you for the 2 days where I give you the step-by-step action you need to move your business into real profit right now. I can't wait to serve you.
Nobody can outwork me.
Right.
I'm going to get to work
Right.
early. I'm going to work
That's
late. I
good.
don't mind working on the weekends and
Yes.
everything else. You will not outwork me. And so and then as time went on, he was very candid with me
Mm.
that if he had to pick originally, I wouldn't have been his person. And it was nothing that I did. He just never had a female manager as his right hand. He has never had an
Mm.
African American manager as his right
Mm-mm.
hand. And so, and believe it or not, it was more the female than it was me being an African American.
Right.
So, but when it was time for me to go, he was so upset.
Right. And the thing I love about this story, look, because she has more trust. The thing I love about this is I really want you guys to get this. Her reputation preceded her, so it was nothing you needed to do but be who you already were, right?
Correct.
And because you went into every market and you crushed it, right? You went
Correct.
over and above. And the reason I'm saying this is because here's what I see where so many people, so many women, the rubber meets the road. You're either going to be mediocre or you're going to be in mastery. You're going to
Correct.
master the lane you're in, or you're going to do just enough, just a little, oh, I get off at 5 every day. Let me leave at 4:55, right? And I love how you said, no one's going to outwork me. I'm going to work the
You're not
weekends.
gonna.
Because mastering the market. I love that about you. Love it, love it. And then he couldn't look, even though he had his whole team, I know he had your replacement already in his mind, but he couldn't even try to outwork
Absolutely.
Nikki into that place and to have that person come into that place.
Oh no, I started making it very easy for him. He started playing golf every day. But I
Okay.
but I will tell you, when they called me for the New Orleans job,
Mm-hmm.
he was so upset. You would have thought that I was like breaking up with him or something. So,
Okay.
but the whole point of it is, and I tell people, it's like sometimes it's not you.
Hmm.
Sometimes it is like, because people is like, people are being prejudiced was because I'm a woman and all this stuff. But sometimes, like, even though it's about you, it's really not you.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you do all the things. And again, my grandmother said, you make sure that you don't make an excuse for yourself.
Come on.
Let them come up with one.
Right.
And so that's what I'm talking about, the wisdom of this older lady
Mm-hmm.
that was actually still working, like back in the days, working in the fields and everything else. Like
Right.
she literally poured in me. So
Yeah.
she was like, you don't be late. If an assignment is due on Friday, you try your best to have it done by Wednesday. And you're talking about a woman that didn't even know anything about corporate America, had never worked in corporate America.
Right. So,
And so,
mm-hmm.
and still to this day, I tell my children the same thing. And I
Yep.
love it because I've definitely passed it on, because they are like, hustlers, and hustlers in a good way, but
Yeah.
they have a work ethic that is, I just look, makes me proud, and prouder than anything that I've ever accomplished. Like, I'm so proud of
Yeah,
them.
and you should be, because let me tell you, this whole millennial, and I don't even know if they're millennial. Girl, I can't keep up with what group
Yes.
is in
So
what group. Millennial.
they are 20s, 28, 29, and
Okay, so
30.
that's millennial. Yes.
Yes.
So these millennials, I promise you, and I'm not talking about your babies, but so many of them think that they go to school and they should, like, I have so many millennials that graduate from school and say, oh, I want to start a business. Baby, you don't have no experience. What business
Correct.
are you getting ready to start? Who you
So
getting ready to coach? Girl, sit
I don't
down
know.
somewhere.
I have worker bees, but here's the thing: is like I've been very transparent with my daughters,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things. Like I said, like I tell people on the start, look, I don't lie because I don't have to. Nobody's going to do anything to me, so there is no reason for me to lie. But I didn't lie
Hmm.
to my kids. Now, if it was
Right.
something that was above them as an adult that I shouldn't have been having a conversation with them, I told them I'm not going to discuss that. That's not for you. But
Right.
when it came to stuff, like I've always been an open book with them because I wanted them to be able to take care of themselves, be able to, navigate through stuff. And because I had
Hmm.
so many hills to climb
Yeah.
in this industry, and just navigating through all of this, I wanted to make sure they had it. But at the end of the day, is I don't like when people like, they didn't give you that is short story. I remember one of the markets I was in, and I won't say the market, but we were there, and a couple of my colleagues that were African American were saying, they're not going to pay us, right? They're not going to do that. I didn't say that because I was absolutely getting paid. My paycheck was more than enough,
Hello.
but a lot of that is when you're not looking in
Right.
yourself. And so one of the things is with my daughters, I've held them accountable. I'm just like, you know
Yeah.
what? Sometimes things aren't right, but you just got to make sure that you're doing the right thing because it will reveal themselves. And that was one of the things my grandmother said. If you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing and somebody has something against you, it's going to reveal them.
Yeah.
It's going to reveal itself.
And really, I think my grandmother must have known your grandmother, because my grandmother used to say that's none of your business. If somebody's doing
Correct.
something wrong, let God get that. You be the right
Correct.
person that you are, or like Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we go high. As long as you're being
Absolutely.
the highest and best version of you and doing your job over and above, let that will work itself out. Right? I
Correct.
love that.
Correct.
Love it.
And one of the things, just like I told my daughters, I said, everybody's not, if you're looking for everybody just to open their arms up and welcome you in. And even as I'm talking to my mentees, I say, you can get that out your head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 20 something years in the
Yeah.
game. People can Google me. My name is like throughout the whole industry and everything else. I still walk in a room and people like look at me and turn their head and everything else. But what I've had to learn how to do is be confident in myself
Mm-hmm.
and know that sometimes I have to bring my own chair.
Ooh.
Everybody's not going to invite you to the
Come on, bring
table.
your own
And
chair.
I'm
Girl,
okay with
you
that because
look, you
I
say
know what
nuggets and
I've earned.
you say nuggets and you
Right.
go so fast, right? She says sometimes she has to bring her own chair. That reminds me of Tyler Perry. I think that was last year, a couple years ago. He was winning an award somewhere. I can't even remember where. And he said he stopped waiting for somebody to invite him to the table. He made his own table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I tell you, I have so many instances. I've literally have walked up to somebody and they've been in conversation and I've been trying to talk to
Mm-hmm.
them. And I'm telling you, they've completely ignored me.
Mm.
And I'm very polite. Look, I don't got politer as I've gotten older, right? And I was just like, you know what? I don't know if it's my tone or not, but I was speaking to you and you have not acknowledged me.
Mm. And then they don't know what to say and we had this conversation before too about going to get coffee so you can calm down
Okay.
so you don't appear to be the angry black woman, right? Which is what they put all of us in that box when we get a little
Correct.
passionate.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, you're not going to get. So this is what and that's what I was sharing with you earlier when people be like, "Oh, you don't have to get emotional," and I said, "No, no, 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 no. You don't have to worry about me getting emotional because I'm not deeply in love with anybody here, and none of y'all look like me.
Hello.
So that's the personal stuff for me. Certain emotions don't go to work for me." I said, "No, don't excuse my passion for being successful as emotion
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to dismiss
Come
me."
on. Come on. And girl,
And I've worked with some men that are way more emotional than a whole lot of women that I know, but they just categorize that as passion. You know, they're passionate. So no, no, you're going to do me the same way. So, and that's why I say I've learned how to speak up for
yeah.
myself without appearing to be angry.
Yes.
And the whole time that I'm saying it, smile on my face. I make sure that the head is not going side to
Right.
side.
No rolling on your neck, even though you might be feeling it on the inside.
Yeah, 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 no, you're not going to get that. But I will
Right.
tell you, I said, please don't get it misconstrued.
Yeah.
I'm not, nobody here looks like me,
Mm-hmm.
meaning my
Mm-hmm.
children. And I'm not madly in love with anybody here. It's certain emotions that will never be at
Yeah,
work for
yeah,
me.
yeah. And that's, and even listening to you say this and even the conversation we had before, just, being the only woman in an industry, only woman, one of few of color, right?
Right.
And what I've seen or, it appears, because, we've only known each other for a couple months. So I can't say what I know of you, right? Is that
Right.
what you have done is you've shifted perspective so that gentleman in Memphis will never look at a black woman the same.
Oh, I know. And matter of fact, it was funny because, and funny but not funny. Every time that I've gotten promoted and moved to another city, a beautiful thing is after I've left, they've hired an African American, but it's normally African American man. But I did have to tell him, I
Mm.
said, the magic is just not in my skin.
Okay. I love it. I
Can't just
love it.
replace me with another
So,
African American. I said, if you're trying
okay.
to replace me with another African American, then let it be a African American woman with some of
Right.
the like I'm married now, but I still have single mother syndrome. I work
Yeah.
like I'm a single mother. Like I have to make it happen. And so, but that
Yeah.
was something funny. I told him. I said, the magic is not just in my skin, even though we now say black girl magic. Like, it's
I know.
more the female
I
part
was
of
thinking
me
that.
than the African American part of me.
But I would even challenge you to your work ethic is because you're passionate at what you do, right?
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
and I know for me, having began my business before I met my husband, and I worked just like you. I'm always working, not because I have to, but because I love it, right? I sometimes have to tell myself, girl, you need to go out of this office and go spend some time with your husband. Oh, that's right. Talking to myself, right?
Correct.
So, but
Correct.
every man I dated before my husband didn't understand this, and we'd fight. My husband appreciates it because he knows this is my passion. Even though he'll come knock on my door
Absolutely.
and go, "Are we gonna watch a movie tonight?" Oh, sorry, baby, I forgot. Okay, I'm coming. So Nick, you've given us so much. I mean, I have a page full of notes, so it's been so good. So if a woman is listening and she is on the edge of her pivot, whether it's in her career or to start a business, what is one thing, or if you have more than one, it's fine too, that you would tell her in this moment that would make her take the leap to do that next thing?
Trust in yourself. I think so many times, like we actually, and look, we're talking about Michelle Obama. She actually talked about, it's like as women, and even one of my favorite authors, Valerie Burton. I've read her whole series, like Women Think Different, Successful Women Think Different, Successful Women Speak Differently. Love her. But one of the things that, like, as women, the Peter Principle, for like right now, if a position was posted and you had to have 10 qualifications, a man could have 5 and be like, I can do it. A woman could have 9 and concentrate on the one that she doesn't have. And unfortunately, I was the same way. For a long time, they wanted me to be a market president, and I didn't understand engineers. And I thought the engineer department was going to be the death of me, because it seemed like when the engineers talk, everything ends in an ATER. Defibrillator, simulator, translator, and it's $100,000 and the world's coming to an end, almost like Back to the Future, right? And so it scared me, because like I had mastered everything else, but I did not understand engineer talk. And thank goodness that one of my mentors told me, nobody understands engineer talk, Nikki. That's the reason why they have the engineers going up to the corporate engineers. But you have everything else. And he said the funniest thing is, he was like, you have everything that everybody's worried about, that want, and you have all of that. And you're just worried about the one thing. And he said, every single day we have people applying and they don't have half of what you have. But that goes back to, so you had Michelle Obama who addressed that. And then, like I said, in the book, reading a book about Successful Women Think Differently, that completely changed my mind, because I was like, if you put yourself in a situation and trust in yourself, you always have on-the-job training. Give yourself room. And if say for instance, you take a promotion and you're not good at it, or something happened, at least you tried. You have more skills. You've exposed yourself and everything else. And it's like, you have to be open to grow. Growth just doesn't happen like, okay, I want a bigger paycheck. What are you willing to do to get that bigger paycheck? You want more responsibilities. Are you going to them saying, I want more responsibilities? So you have to have the conversations and everything else. And if it comes to a business, I have a heart for entrepreneurs. And I tell everybody every day, one of the reasons why I'm so good at what I do is because I truly have admiration for entrepreneurs. I myself.
Well, girl, you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Let me just say that as someone that coaches entrepreneurs, you have an entrepreneurial spirit.
You speaking it to me, because I've had so many people like, Nikki, you need, and matter of fact, I've even had some of my clients to say, Nikki, if you ever start a business, I will fund it. But I will tell you what really makes me tick. I love to hear somebody's stories, like actually getting to sit and listening to, the FedEx exec talk about how FedEx started. Oh my goodness. That right there. And then the beauty of it is they love it too, because too often people don't ask them, what made you start this business?
Well, Nikki, let me say, girl, you have given us, oh my goodness. Thank you for always trusting yourself. Thank you for blazing trails for so many, and not just in the media industry, but in every industry. Because when we see that it's possible through you, it gives other women to come behind you hope. So thank you for just being who you are, and for never showing up, being afraid of doing you unapologetically.
Absolutely. Thank you. Look, thank you for having me. Look, I am truly excited about life, and I live life on purpose. I'm very deliberate about my everyday. And when you do that, I expect good results.
Yes.
So I truly feel like I'm getting what I put in.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised. And again, that's not to say to sound arrogant. When you put in the work, it's kind of like, I heard Michael Jordan talk about this. Like, why wouldn't you expect Michael Jordan to be that good? He put in the work.
He worked hard. Right. And what's it? Malcolm Gladwell talks about this in his book. I can't remember which book it was, but 10,000 hours they put in. It's called mastery. When you put that kind of time in, it's talent plus putting in the time to perfect
Correct.
it.
Outliers. Is it Outliers?
Outliers. That's the book.
I love Outliers. I get some of my
too.
mentees to actually read that.
Yes, I love that. Anyway, we'll keep on talking. Thank you, girl. I appreciate you. Big hug to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Amplify Your Brilliance. Now, I want you to walk away from these sessions with value, so answer either one or all 3 of these questions. Number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what will you do different as a result of what you heard? See, you may have heard something you've already heard, or Or you may have learned something new. Either way, don't take the insight that was shared with you for granted. So commit to doing one thing different as a result of what you heard. Number 3, what was confirmation for you? What did you hear that confirmed you're on the right path? See, I want you to take a moment and celebrate you. Too often in our journey, we focus on what we're not doing and we forget to celebrate what we are doing. So I want you to share with us something that showed you that you're on the right path. Now again, share. Share either answer number 1, what was your greatest takeaway? Number 2, what will you do different? Or number 3, what was confirmation for you? And share it in our Facebook community. Go to thebrilliancetribe.com and use the hashtag #AmplifyYourBrilliance. See, each experience we encourage, support, and celebrate as a community. It allows us to expand in possibility and wisdom, in encouragement and love. Now, we've invited you into this community to deepen our journey with being the answer somebody needs and being committed to your next level. So until the next time, be extraordinary, be unapologetic, be bodaciously you, go and amplify.